Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling something that literally almost everyone goes through, but kind of nobody talks about when it actually matters. We're breaking down the biggest financial mistakes young adults make. So let's just dive right in, because what we're going to uncover today are those early, super quiet financial pitfalls that happen completely under the radar. You know, those totally ordinary decisions you make between your first real paycheck and your first set of real bills, decisions that can literally stick with you for decades.
But hey, right out of the gate, I want to be super clear. There is absolutely no shame here. Nobody sits you down beforehand to explain what's actually at stake, right? There is no mandatory Life Math 101 class in most schools, so naturally, these mistakes just get made quietly, one by one. We're definitely not here to judge. We're just here to figure out exactly why these missteps cost so much and how we can interrupt that pattern before it totally takes over.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to look at these common mistakes as psychological traps. First up, the trap of time and inaction. Then we'll hit the trap of spending and appearance. Third is the trap of debt and vulnerability. And we'll wrap the whole shebang up with the solution and how to actually course correct.
All right, let's hit trap number 1, time and inaction, or the hidden cost of waiting.
Okay, so get this. Surprisingly, the most expensive financial mistake you can make early on isn't, some terrible stock pick or a massive luxury purchase. It's actually just doing nothing. And that's all because of this hidden, crazy powerful force called compound growth. Think of compound growth as your money basically growing on its growth. It's like rolling a giant snowball down a hill. It just grabs more and more snow with every single rotation. Because of how this math works, your earliest saving years matter way more than any other time in your life. Time is literally your most irreplaceable asset. Every single year you skip saving is a year of explosive growth that you can never ever get back.
In fact, financial researchers see this massive structural gap all the time between early and late savers. If you start investing even just a modest amount in your early 20s, you'll very likely end up with way more cash by retirement than someone who freaks out and tries to aggressively play catch-up with huge amounts of money in their 40s. Taking early action literally beats delayed, heavy lifting every single time.
So why do we wait? Well, most of the time, inaction isn't this deliberate, conscious choice to avoid saving. It's just this sneaky, false belief that we'll have more time later. We tell ourselves, oh, I'll start when I get that bigger paycheck, or when things calm down, or when my expenses magically drop next month. But let's be real, that perfect moment, it almost never arrives, and the years just keep passing us by anyway. That brings us to trap number 2, spending and appearance, the quiet wealth killer. We've all seen this classic cycle of lifestyle inflation. You finally get a nice raise at work, and suddenly you're thinking, you know what, I deserve to upgrade to a nicer apartment, or maybe I should lease that cooler car. But before you even realize it, those shiny new fixed costs completely eat up the raise. It's the random streaming services you never even watch, the premium gym you go to maybe once a month, and those $20 daily takeout orders. They just accumulate, one by one, feeling totally reasonable in the moment. And boom, that is exactly how someone earning way more than they did 5 years ago is somehow still living completely paycheck to paycheck.
The real danger here isn't just spending a few extra bucks. The true danger is that the gap between what you make and what you spend, which is the actual money you have available to save and build wealth, stays exactly the same or even shrinks. Plus, these lifestyle upgrades have a habit of being super permanent. Once you sign a more expensive lease or lock into a higher car payment, you're stuck. And that totally destroys your ability to build up a real financial cushion.
And honestly, so much of the spending is driven by a total illusion. Comparing your behind-the-scenes financial reality to someone else's carefully curated appearance is basically comparing two completely different universes. This is such a crucial realization, especially with social media today. We justify a crazy expensive vacation or a massive wardrobe upgrade because we feel like we just have to keep up. But what you're seeing online is a tiny, highly filtered fraction of their actual life. And a lot of times, that flawless lifestyle you're comparing yourself to is actually just heavily funded by crippling debt.
Which perfectly transitions us into trap number 3, debt and vulnerability, and the harsh math of emergencies.
So what happens when those lifestyle illusions crash into inevitable, real-life events? You enter the danger zone. Let's say life throws you a curveball, a totally standard emergency, like a $500 car repair. Now, if you have an emergency fund, a nice little cash cushion, that bump in the road gets absorbed instantly. No big deal. But if you don't have savings and you have to slap that repair onto a high-interest credit card, the financial damage of a simple blown tire effectively grows larger and larger every single month it takes you to pay it off.
I really want to pause and emphasize that initial $500 because for a lot of us, credit cards are our first real exposure to debt, and the actual terms are rarely ever explained. The mistake isn't using a credit card. The mistake is carrying the balance. A small $500 unpaid balance, quietly compounding at 20-something% interest, balloons over a few years into a massive, suffocating burden that vastly outweighs whatever you actually bought in the first place.
And there's a nasty secondary cost to this trap too, wrecking your credit history right out of the gate. Mismanaging debt early on is incredibly costly because it hits you at the exact moment when a solid credit profile should be opening doors for you. Having poor credit means getting denied for apartments, paying way higher car insurance, and getting slapped with terrible loan rates. All of that acts like a massive drag on your finances for years, sometimes decades.
Okay, deep breath. Let's pivot to the final section, the solution and course correction, and how we actually reverse this pattern.
The absolutely amazing, empowering news here is that these mistakes are entirely reversible if you catch them early. Take a look at employer retirement contributions, for example. When you put in a standard contribution, an employer match completely supersizes it. If you decide not to put in enough to get that match, you are quite literally turning down free money. And going back to our friend compound growth, skipping this in your 20s doesn't just cost you the free match today, it costs you decades and decades of explosive growth on that free money.
Honestly, at the very root of almost all these early financial mistakes is just avoidance. Money feels stressful or confusing, so we kind of just bury our heads in the sand and don't look. But here's the secret. You do not need to be a Wall Street expert to be financially secure. You just need to regularly engage with your money. Check your account balances. Actually sit down and read your loan terms. Spend an hour learning the bare bones basics of budgeting and interest. The whole goal is just to catch the small leaks, like a dumb subscription you forgot about or an avoidable late fee, before they compound into an absolute disaster.
At the end of the day, financial security is just the accumulation of ordinary, everyday decisions. Not a single one of the mistakes we talked about today will ruin your life on its own. One missed match or one unpaid balance won't destroy your future. But young adulthood is exactly when your financial foundation gets poured. Those habits you form early on, whether they're good or bad, are going to quietly compound for the next 40 years.
So I'm going to leave you with this final kind of provocative question. Which quiet financial mistake are you going to fix today? Because financial security isn't built in one big dramatic moment, and it's not lost in one either. It's built on the incredibly ordinary decisions you make consistently and early enough to actually matter. So go take a look at your accounts, spot those spending traps, and take back control of your financial timeline. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll see you all next time.